Today, I feel like I have been given two messages. The main one is going to be addressing the topic of whether or not dating is biblical. And then the second message is I have been avoiding this topic for a little bit, and really been avoiding the subject of relationships in general because, in all honesty, personal relationships has kind of been where I have failed in my life. And I really felt like didn't have a lot to offer on this topic. But I was reminded that everyone has a point of view, and their point of view could really help someone else. So the second message is if you feel like your point of view is not important, please share your story because you never know who it might help. So, the topic of dating. I'm going to give a very general, very brief testimony, and I may give a more in depth testimony later on. But for the purposes of this video, it's not necessary. I am 50 years old. I just turned 50 this year, and I have been married, I have been divorced. And in the beginning, when I was a teenager, I went to church, I was involved in church, and I met a man when I was about 18 or 19 years old, and we dated, and I fell head over heels in love with him. We did all the things. We went to church together. We talked about our hopes, our dreams, who we were as people. Um, and the day came where he proposed. It was about maybe 2 years after we started dating, 2.5 years after we started dating, and he proposed unprompted. Like I did not pressure him into it or anything like that. We got premarital counseling through the pastor, through the church. We were married in the church, and we had waited until we were married before we had sex. I was a virgin when I got married. So I felt that I had done all the things that I was supposed to do as a born again Christian. I had taken all the right steps. We talked about, like, I knew that I probably couldn't have children. I had been to doctors and that had been established. We discussed that. He knew that. He said he was okay with that. He still wanted to marry me. He still loved me. But even so, we talked about should we have children, how we would raise them, and we came into agreement on rules for raising our future children should we have any. Like we talked about all the things. Um, but the marriage didn't work. So I decided that he had taken steps during our marriage that biblically had released me from that vow. And then I got angry. I got angry at God. I felt like I had done everything right. I felt like I had prayed. I felt like I had waited for an answer on whether or not this was the person I was supposed to marry. We had gone to premarital counseling. We had received, acceptance by both of our parents. Both of our families were extremely happy about this union. And so I rebelled. When I left that marriage and got a divorce, I just rebelled. I rebelled against God. I rebelled against the church. And I just did what I wanted to do for about the next 17 years or so. Um, and then slowly, bit by bit, I found my way back to God and found my way back to my relationship with God. So why are we talking about this? Because I want to make sure that I do things the way I'm supposed to. I want to make sure that I do things God's way and not my own way, because my own way clearly leads to failure in every sense of the word. And so I wanted to see what the Bible said about dating. And the Bible says nothing. The Bible says nothing about dating. The Bible does not mention dating. The Bible does not mention boyfriend and girlfriends. This concept does not exist in the Bible. Really, the Bible only talks about marriages, and that's it. And so then I started doing some research, and what a rabbit hole that is, because I got concepts about Christian dating, Christian courtships. I got different concepts of what Christian courtships should be. For example, I had different sites that were telling me that a Christian courtship is where you are chaperoned and you're never left alone. And it's that way until you're married. I had other sites that said, no, that's not true, but it is more seriously geared toward marriage. And that you're only in courtship when you're talking about marriage. That dating, Christian dating, is like secular dating, except you try to put some Christian values in there, like no sex. Some people include kissing. Like some people say don't kiss. Like that the Bible doesn't forbid it, but it does say to avoid temptation. And kissing for some people is a temptation. So if it's a temptation for you, then don't kiss. And you have different people giving their testimony about how they never kissed their spouse until the day that they got married, or until the day that they got engaged. And so there's all these definitions by other people's standards of what Christian dating is versus Christian courtships. And it's all terminology, because I find no biblical reference. And you will find that most people agree that there is no biblical reference for these things. It is just a standard that people have created to abide by the principles that are in the Bible to keep you as safe away from sin as possible, to keep you as clean as possible before you get married. Because ultimately, the idea behind dating, a lot of people will say that the difference between dating and courtship is dating is just for fun and courtship is more geared towards marriage. So it's like dating's for practice and courtship's for real. However you define it, I have no opinion on that. To me, it's all terminology, that it all is going out. You're going out with someone. What I know to be true for my life, my testimony is that I have never been one that has been interested in dating. I will talk with someone and get to know someone all day long till the cows come home, and I can do that for months. But as far as considering myself dating that person, it takes a little while for me, usually, to get to know that person well enough to want to date them. Or sometimes I will have such an immediate chemistry or connection with someone that I will date them as I get to know them, but it happens so rarely. But for me, I have, even in high school, I never really dated. I think I went on a couple of dates and that was it in my entirety of high school. In college, I didn't really date. I met my husband, and that was it for me. Like, I liked him pretty instantaneously, and I was good. And it was like that for a handful of people in my life. And had we gone about things a little bit differently, the end result may have been different. But whatever the definition is for you, what I do know is that lately the scriptures that have been coming to me, always God says, remember to obey my commands. And in the Bible, it does talk about no sex before marriage, keeping the marital bed clean, and trust God, and to follow his commands. And so I think as long as you are true to God and you put him first and you don't put these other people that you're interested in talking to or eventually dating or eventually courting above God, and you don't put them above your relationship with God, that ultimately he will tell you the right decisions to make for those people. For example, are those people consistent? Like, God calls us to be wise. Ask, it's okay to ask your pastor. It's okay to ask your parents. It's okay to ask your friends. I know people who, before they dated someone, introduced them to like their friends. And if their friends didn't like them, then they thought long and hard before they would date that person. So it's okay to get other people's input and take that into consideration. Now, I'm not saying let them make that decision for you, but again, look at things realistically and don't let your heart blind you. So, are they being controlling? Do they listen to you? Do they give you what you need versus what you want? Do they give you some of what you want? Do they make good decisions in their life? Are they always looking for you to bail them out instead of them taking responsibility for their life? Do you have common goals? Is it a Christ-centered relationship? Are the goals Christ-centered? Do y'all have a common purpose in life? These are all, do you both put God first in your life? But the answer to the question is dating biblical? There's nothing in the Bible that says that dating is biblical, but there's nothing in the Bible that says it's not. But I think a lot of times we are trying to fit in to worldly concepts. We as Christians are trying to fit into worldly concepts. And the Bible doesn't call us to do that. It calls us to stand out. And if you are equally yoked with another Christian, as the Bible calls us to be, then they will understand where you're coming from when, if you do decide to kiss on a date and it gets a little too much and you go, wait a minute, we need to stop. They'll go, yep, understand what you mean. They'll respect that. So what I would encourage you to do is to pray on it, to seek God's counsel, take everything back to God for confirmation. Okay? And as always, may the Lord bless and keep you. May his face smile upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. I love y'all. Have a great night.